Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Live. NCAA bracket talk, basketball talk today. One day delayed. I apologize for my shortcomings. And welcome to Stephen Justin Sports Talk Live. Hello, Justin. How the hell are you? We were together all day, by the way. It's not like I just he was doing his usual physical help for the old guy.
Good afternoon, Judge.
How are you?
Surprisingly limber for somebody who was moving heavy stuff all day.
Yeah, I tried for a few minutes to get it together again. I couldn't do it. I know it's a weird thing because those cabinets were made. First of all, that cabinet is nowhere. Well, we shouldn't go on. Everyone's gonna turn us off. So I don't know, a lot of sports things going on. Yeah, obviously.
Make sure you like and subscribe before you turn us off.
Yeah, make sure you like and subscribe before you turn us off. Or at least come back, and I want to thank everybody. There's been more subscriptions. There's been a lot of good feedback, and we try hard to bring more and more guests to you. In fact, we have a guest today. Justin, you want to give him a little background? He's not in the waiting area, I see, as yet, but
yeah. So today we're going to bring in a very, very, very good friend of mine, longtime friend, Keith Spillett, who is currently a researcher for the American Basketball Hall of Fame. He will give us a little rundown on that. They're having another induction, I think, is in August. So he'll give us a little bit of history on that because it differs a great deal from the Naismith Hall of Fame. And then we're going to jump into a little bracketology.
Bracketology.
And if you've been following him, he writes for a college sports blog, and he's been following Kennesaw State all year randomly, and they just happened to make the tournament. So he's a writer for collegebasketballtimes.com.
There they are. They're in the West. Kennesaw State's playing Gonzaga. Oh, God.
Upset City.
I'm all over it. Yep, definitely upset.
And that's that. We got what else? Got USA Baseball tonight.
USA Baseball tonight.
The Italians let us down yesterday, but that's all right. They had a good run.
It would seem like the Americans paid off enough people that even though they lost, they came into the regular setup. All the powers that be at the World Baseball Classic sat around and said, gee, what team gives us the most ratings? Oh, it's USA. Oh, maybe we should let them back in after they've been eliminated.
The back and forth from the manager having no clue that they weren't in, stating before they lost to Italy that they were already locked in, and then changing his story afterwards.
Right.
Kind of a circus, but they find themselves in the final tonight. So we'll see what happens. They're going to play Venezuela. I'm sure Venezuela wants to get out as bad as they can.
I agree.
Well, you know what? I'll leave the politics out of it.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Well, maybe we can mention quick that Lou Holtz passed away.
Yeah, it was first reported before he passed away, I think on ESPN or one of the major networks. And then we found out that he was still fighting in hospice. But I guess, the writing was on the wall, unfortunately.
Right.
Lived a good life. Tremendous character. Obviously, tremendous football mind. A great influence to all of his players and students that came through his program. Lived a really good life.
Yeah, sure did. Was a great coach, too. So we have Pastor Keith with us. So I'm going to let him in.
This is my first time ever using a computer, so I'm new at this. Please be patient. The other day I learned how to turn on the light switch on and off. I'm very good. As the judge noted, I was wearing a hat because I didn't want the theme for all like bald guys. I didn't want this to look like a hair club for men commercial. And
We do
Cy
paid.
Sperling's over here, and we got like Mount Rushmore of bald guys here. So, how you guys doing? What's
We're
up?
good. We're
What's
good.
going
Keith.
on?
Oh man,
Well,
not much. I'm just out
pleasure.
enjoying the beach.
Yep.
In Atlanta. Not really
You're in
beachy.
Atlanta?
I'm in Atlanta. Yeah.
No.
Or at least that's where the program says for me to say that they put me, but not on the law. Justin knows. It's a long story.
You go ahead, Justin. Why don't you give us a little of his background and then
All right, sure. So before we get started, we're here with Pastor Keith Spillett. Make sure you click like, subscribe, share with your friends. You can find Keith at the American Basketball Hall of Fame. He's a researcher, and you can also find him at what's the website?
College Basketball Times. AmericanBasketballHallOfFame.com. Yeah, and then collegebasketballtimes.com. And I also, at the American Basketball Hall of Fame, I work as a statue part-time, so I'm like that. Here's my release one where I'm like this, and you just see my hand. It's really cool. So, yeah. So,
very good. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I'm sorry with all of the technical stuff and everything like that.
That's why God created it.
Create editing. I missed that chapter.
So yeah, it's right after
like
Deuteronomy. That's why you turn ahead. It's right after Deuteronomy. When I studied law and society, and then I remember I had a professor, and he was like, "Steve, I have something I want you to do your project on because you got to do a thesis."
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "I want you to do it on Deuteronomy." And I was like, "You're kidding me, right?" I mean, like it was incredibly difficult, incredibly difficult.
Hard. I was going to say, I stick to Job and Revelations. They bring me up a lot. So,
Yeah.
Biblical humor here on the Sports Talk. Here we go.
Biblical talk.
Really? I mean, like, what about Deuteronomy? I'm sorry. This is like I'm kind of fascinated. What did he have
Deuteronomy, because it's Old Testament, and Deuteronomy has to do with all the laws and all the rules and what everybody's supposed to do. And it's incredibly complex, and it's very long and dense. And I was like, why did I? Because where I went to school, most majors didn't have to write a thesis, but I unfortunately had to write a thesis. So
okay, very cool.
Anyway,
yeah, let's get to it. So, how long have you been with the American Basketball Hall of Fame?
About 2 years now. And it's been great. Again, I love researching the game. It's something I'm really interested in. A guy by the name of Len Critchko hired me as director of basketball operations, and basically what they do is they have me find out. I mean, the players we're not looking at like Michael Jordan. We're looking at players who are streetball legends. We're looking at players whose stories haven't really been told. So it's actually pretty interesting research. Like I'll end up doing interviews, going down all sorts of wormholes, trying to find tape on players, things like that. Right. So
I remember seeing a documentary a long time ago. I think it was a documentary, or it was just a show on, some of the legends who played streetball in Harlem. And it was unbelievable, these guys.
Oh yeah. There are so many great stories. I mean, not this the guy. You could have a Hall of Fame of guys we haven't put in the Hall of Fame, just who are great stories. There was a guy. I mean, there's a guy in Atlanta named Kenneth Hot Sauce Champion, who's like a local streetball legend down here. There was another guy. I swear this was his name. His name 88 James, and they called him 88 James. Great player. I think he was in Washington. He only had 4
piano.
No, he had 4 fingers on each hand, so they called him 88 James, and he was unbelievable. He was a fantastic player, but there are all these. I mean, the basketball has this incredible narrative quality. The streetball legends are just, it's like the stories talked about for years and years, and sometimes it's true, sometimes it's exaggerated, but it's always really interesting. So it's a cool part about the game.
I remember years ago, I had a trucking company, and we thought to bring the guys and the drivers together, we'd start a basketball team, and we were in Hudson County, New Jersey. Well, the first game we had was against a team of guys that had been playing together since they were in 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
Full court. I was pretty much almost dead after the first quarter, running back and forth. These guys were so good. It was like the rest of us were standing still. And I had 3 guys that played high school basketball and a couple that played in college, but these guys were so tight. Imagine, they were in their 20s or 30s.
Oh yeah, and like I'll play pickup down here, and occasionally you get guys who are like D1, D2 players playing pickup ball, and like I'll just say to them if I end up on them, like, how should I guard you? Just let me know and just be honest with me, because there's nothing physically I can do to stop you. So if you can help me, I can make this interesting for you if there's something you want to work on. So, just
Well,
good.
as we know, in places like New York City, I mean, there are legends of basketball players that go down in history. Know they're never going to play pro. They don't even want to play pro. They have no interest in play pro. And back in the day, you had to go to college to play pro anyway. They would never draft anybody from the street. Yeah,
Sure.
and the closest you get to that is Wilt Chamberlain, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and you had actually I'm going to talk about Wilt a little bit later, because one of the guys we have in the Hall of Fame who's an inductee is a guy named Ed McCluskey, who was a high school coach in Pennsylvania at Farrell. For years, he won like 7 state championships. Ed McCluskey was one of the only coaches ever to beat Wilt Chamberlain when he was in high school. You actually can find video of this on YouTube. I couldn't believe it. McCluskey had nobody over 6'4" on the team, and they're trying to guard Chamberlain. And they really controlled Chamberlain. It was incredible. I mean, they pushed him off the glass. I mean, they had Chamberlain outside throwing 15-footers up, and it was the only guy I ever seen do that was Bill Russell. So for McCluskey is like this all-time great high school coach, and we wanted to acknowledge guys like that and get them into the Hall of Fame so people know their story, because they're fascinating.
Right.
We're talking with Keith Spillett from the American Basketball Hall of Fame. So before we get into more stories, how did the American Basketball Hall of Fame get started?
Sure. Well, a guy by the name of Lamont Showboat Robinson, who played in the USBL, played all over the place. He's been nominated several times for the Naismith Hall of Fame. Lamont is a great dude. He in 2019 he was with the Harlem Globetrotters for years. He actually lived with Meadowlark Lemon for 8 years. And has great stories about that. And so he thought about it, and he's like, there are all these people who keep being on this nomination list who never make it, and they're fantastic. And why not put them? Why not have a Hall of Fame for people who have great stories? I mean, the game isn't just about winning championships. It's about stories. It's about I don't know. It's about legends. It's about it's one of those things that I think we want to tell the story that the stories that aren't being told, and there's a lot of them. I think with the Naismith Hall of Fame, which is kind of like the Michael Jordan Hall of Fame, like greatest of all time, everything like that. We're like the Scottie Pippen Hall of Fame. We're the Hall of Fame that really adds a level of character and depth to the game, and really creates a history and a legend around it that people can connect with and really fall in love with. So
it's funny you mentioned stories, because we live in a different time now with the 24-hour news cycle and social media. There's really no place for these guys to hide, regarding pro athletes. And, you forget that they're human beings, and sometimes they make mistakes, whatever you want to call it. Years ago, they could make as many mistakes as they wanted because they were kind of protected by the media. Whereas now, where there's smoke, there's fire, and it follows them, and it doesn't stop. So this particular avenue that you guys have created for yourselves with players like that, how important is it to find the right story when you're inducting somebody into the American Basketball Hall of Fame?
The stories are everything. I mean, like, guys like, from Rucker Park, like Earl the Goat Manigault, he never played pro ball, but Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played against him in high school and said he was the greatest player he ever saw. There are guys that you'll never find tape of, you'll never see, but the stories of them are so powerful. And there are other people who had, human beings make mistakes, and there are people who had amazing careers and for one reason or another are forgotten. One of my favorite of all time, I'm actually wearing the shirt today, Cleveland State Vikings from 1986. One of my all-time favorite coaches was a guy by the name of Kevin Mackey. Kevin Mackey was incredible. He was an assistant in Boston. He was a high school coach in Boston, was an assistant Boston College, went to Cleveland State and built a program of guys, Kenny Mouse McFadden, who was a star player, was painting houses when he found them. He recruited all these guys who weren't getting recruited anywhere else, and he created this team in 1986 that beat Indiana with Bobby Knight in the first round. Mackey was hysterical. Mackey walked up, Mackey's, tough Irish guy, from Boston, struts up to Bobby Knight. Bobby Knight's like 6'7". He's like, go easy on us, big guy. And then he proceeds to blow Indiana out of the building. That Indiana team won a national championship next year. Cleveland State went on to the next round, beat St. Joe's and Phil Martelli. And the year after, and the next round, they lost to David Robinson and Navy by 1 point. Navy team went to the Final Four. So it's like,
Right.
Mackey was an incredible story. Well, Mackey had some substance abuse issues, and it got him, there was a scandal around it, and he got out of the game. Well, he got clean, and he coached in the USBL, won several titles there. And this is a guy who had an amazing career. And Larry Bird had seen Mackey coach and thought he was, again, the best coach he had ever seen. And so when Bird was running the Pacers, he brought Mackey in as a scout. And Mackey was the lead scout there for 18 or 19 years and was incredible. And like, he's the guy who talked the Indiana Pacers into drafting Paul George, right? So there are all these stories of guys. And Coach Mackey passed away earlier this year. He was inducted was 2 years ago. And just like a great guy, really, totally part of the history of the game. But because of the scandal, people don't really think about him. And yet here's a guy who turned his life completely around, changed things, and, became just a great part of the game. And, he's not going to get in the Naismith Hall of Fame for that reason. But we give him a chance. We give him an opportunity to be, to have his story told. And I mean, Cinderella was started. The whole Cinderella concept with, that is Mouse McFadden and Cleveland State. That was the beginning of it. So, and so Mackey is vitally important to the game. Actually, I used to steal his run and stun defense all the time. So did Bob Huggins, who we also inducted, full court, fast-paced trap and press type stuff. Mackey was like the guy, a real innovator with that. So we like to put guys like that in, and that's
How important, sorry to cut you off, go ahead.
No, let's go ahead. I was going to say that's what it's all about to me. So,
yeah. How important is it for you guys to find a collection of players every year? How tough is it? But how important is it to have their stories told in terms of telling the story of basketball on the whole?
Again, we could go out and try to get, like the greatest play. We get players and things like, but really like we're looking for the story first. We're looking for something that's compelling, something that when you hear it, when you read the story, I mean, I'll just give you an example of a few people, but we really try, we have a few people who are in the Naismith Hall of Fame, but we try very much to get people who aren't in the Naismith Hall of Fame. One of which, and I guess this is a better known story, but amazingly, this guy isn't in the Hall of Fame and he's going to be in our class this year, is a guy by the name of Sonny Vaccaro. Okay. How is Sonny Vaccaro not in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame? The guy is the single most important person in the history of sports marketing. This is a guy, they made a movie with Matt Damon about him a few years ago. This is a guy who signed Michael Jordan and completely changed how sports marketing was done. So Sonny Vaccaro is going in this year. Sonny's in his late 80s. He's a great guy and he's going to come, so we're going to get a chance to celebrate him, which again, one of the most mind-blowing things is that Naismith hasn't given him a call. He's one of the most important guys. I mean, how many people, you see the little Jordan silhouette, like that's him, that's literally, he's the reason you see that. So we got another person going in who's a friend and one of my all-time favorite players is a woman by the name of Debbie Miller-Palmore. Debbie played for 4 years at Boston. This is before there was, if you were a woman and you played back when she was playing in the 70s, generally your chance was to go overseas. Well, she was on a national team that went and played in Mexico, and they played against Russia. The United States hadn't beat Russia in women's basketball in 15 years. They were the only team to beat the Russians in 15 years. And so the big showdown was supposed to be in 1980 at the Olympics. And they're ready to go. And Debbie's like, one of the best scorers on the team. She's, like just a 16-point, 12 rebound a game player. They got this great squad. And then Afghanistan happens and Jimmy Carter boycotts the Olympics and we're not there in 1980. So someone like Debbie, who actually, she runs all sorts of youth programs in my area, like her moment, she would have had a chance to win a gold medal, and that chance just didn't happen for her. And so we want Debbie Miller-Palmore in our Hall of Fame because that's a great story and that's somebody who belongs in. Tom Wilson, who's, people think about the Pistons, they think about the bad boys, like who built that? Well, it was built by Tom Wilson. He was the president of basketball operations for the Pistons. He was the guy who designed Auburn Hills, the Palace. That was him. He's going in this year for us. Great. Bucky Lou. Would you believe that the first African-American player in the history of professional basketball is not in the NBA Hall of Fame?
That's incredible.
Yeah, it blows my mind. Henry Bucky Lou was a player. He played in 1902. He actually played in one of the original leagues. It was I got to get the name of it correctly. It's the Pawtucket. It was the New England Basketball Association, which was sort of a precursor to what eventually became the NBA. And I mean, he dealt with an enormous amount of racism, but he was on the floor playing in 1902 and ended up becoming a coach in 1928. Breaks my heart he's not in Springfield, because literally in 1920, after he retired, he opened up a dry cleaning, wait for it, in Springfield, Massachusetts, and they hadn't put him in the Hall of Fame. He's running a dry cleaners like up the street from the Hall of Fame, and they don't have him in. So it's, somebody like Bucky Lou is somebody that, that again, we feel like his story is incredible, and we want to acknowledge that. We want to tell that story. And of course, we got guys like, everybody knows Magic Johnson, but we're inducting Magic Johnson's mentor, a guy by the name of Benny White. Benny White was the point guard at Michigan State before Magic was there. And when Magic got there, Benny showed him the ropes. And really, Benny's done a ton of great work in Detroit, but he's also really a great player. And he was the guy who helped shape Magic into the player he became. So, those are the guys going in. Those are the folks going in this year. And I'm totally excited about that. We got more than that too. So
some compelling stories.
Yeah, definitely.
I would imagine that it's tough to decide who gets in and who doesn't on a year-to-year basis so far, because there's probably a ton of other people out there that are worthy or deserving of it. But you can't put them all in. Is there a criteria for getting in, or is there a process that limits how many people you can put in?
Well, yeah, and that's actually a great question, Justin, because we've been going through, and initially the class was like 25 people, and we had almost 20 people in the ceremony last time, and the ceremony ran kind of long. I mean, it's a great ceremony, but storytelling's great, but after about 3 hours, people are like, okay, what's going on? So we really decided this year that we needed to cut the class down to 10. So as a researcher, one of the things I do is I prepare different bios for players, and I submit them to the board. The board votes on who they think is the most qualified, most compelling story, and that's how we end up with our Hall of Fame. And there are some guys. There's one guy I can't talk about who you would definitely know, who has to do with a New York basketball franchise that is not in the Hall of Fame. That is a very strong possibility. But I'm sworn to secrecy on that one, so I'm not gonna mention anything about that.
When is the ceremony?
The ceremony is going to be on August 30th in at University of Oakland. Oakland University is. Do you remember the kid a few years back, Jack Olkey, who hit 10 threes in the game against Kentucky in the tournament?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So he's coached by a guy named Greg Campy. Greg Campy helps out with the Hall. He's been the coach at Oakland for over 1,300 games since 1985. Ninth active winningest coach in college basketball. So he actually helps us host the thing at University of Oakland, which is about probably 45 minutes outside of Detroit. So yeah, August 29th, we're doing
Oakland, Michigan, not Oakland, California.
Don't go to Oakland, California. Yeah. It's a long drive back. Believe me, I've been to California. It's not anywhere near Michigan.
It's so funny.
Will you be in attendance for that?
Huh?
Will you be in attendance for that?
I will be, absolutely. I'll be and I'll be signing autographs, giving away hats, giving away scalp massage tips.
So it's funny.
I like you wore a hat too. The judge is the only bald dude here, so it's like I kind of like you're the.
Well, he can't. He's got the headphones.
Well, yeah, that's right. Okay, that's fair enough.
So it's funny you bring up stories, and I remember, and this is not college, so it's not it. When I was a kid, I grew up in Oakland, New Jersey. There was a town right next to this, which is a regional school, and you got to high school, they were both together, but there was a grammar school team for Franken Lakes, and they had a coach named Berger, and he made all the players, if you made the team, you had to shave your head to show your dedication.
Nice.
All right. So they used to call them Berger's Baldies. They would make fun of them, right? Berger's Baldies.
I love it.
And they got the last laugh. For 10 years in a row since he was coach, they won state championship.
Good.
What happens, a player wants to play and he refuses to he ends up suing the school. The school ends up changing the rule that they don't have to shave it because it was only the coach's rule. The coach resigns, and that's the end of it.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And the kid that sued was a really good friend of mine too.
Oh,
Still
wow.
is.
Well, I have a actually there's a team in the tournament this year, University of Idaho, that has a guy who's like 6'11", who's bald, but he has like this like blonde halo around it. It's like a skullet thing he has going on. He probably played there, you know? So would that be a case, by the way, I'm sorry you're a judge, so I got to ask, would that be a case that would you hear a case like that? Would that be something that would get any traction?
Well, if it gets filed, then whatever, you can't force. I mean, I'm not that kind of a judge. I'm administrative law, and I do private stuff now, but as an arbitrator mediator. But can a school system really force a kid to shave his head, or else he can't play on the team? I mean, back then he looked at it this way: I'm not forcing you to do anything. If you want to play, you got to shave your head.
Sure. Well, but and again, it gets into a freedom of expression area, though. It's kind of interesting, right? What if a kid has a religious reason to wear long hair, or something like that?
And I remember we were in football practice in high school, and he was with me, and we're standing there, and the coach goes, "Casada, who's this?" And I said, "That's Luke, whatever his last name is. We don't need to say it." And he goes, "Oh, I know I recognized him, the basketball star." And I said and this is a coach that used to play defensive end for the Oakland Raiders. He was 500 feet tall. He was solid muscle.
Wow.
Okay. He told me a story once that during practice, when they were torturing the rookies, he used to put dead birds in the guys' helmets. Okay. So this wasn't a guy before football practice that you wanted to gain your attention to.
Oh my gosh. I hear hazing stories, and that one sounds more like an Ed Gein story than a hazing story, but that is like literally I'll hear stuff and I'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe they did stuff like that. But
well,
it was another time, I suppose.
NFL and the Raiders, how's that combination?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I didn't know the Raiders had any 800 feet guys.
You just can't not talk about football on the show.
Oh, I know.
We can't just not talk about football.
Not so back
to basketball. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'm a Falcon fan. There's nothing much for me to say except sorry.
Was there ever anything to say?
Yes, there was. That was 28-3 at the half, and there was I could go to bed and be a Super Bowl champion without even watching the second half, and I didn't, and I should have because anyway, the Tom Brady guy, I don't like him either. I don't know how you feel about him, but I got some strong feelings about the guy. So yes, we had 1 year, but yeah, no. Oh, we had Billy Joe Robideau at quarterback once.
Oh, wow.
To run the run and shoot.
Yeah.
Jerry, he used to leave 2 tickets for Elvis for every game. I mean, has a history. Justin and I watched Browning Nagel tear up the Atlanta Falcons defense the day the Georgia Dome opened. So yeah, I mean, it's a rich and vibrant history of a program. Absolutely.
So getting back to basketball.
Go ahead. Yeah, please. Thank you.
What did you how did you become so interested? Were you a player? Were you as a kid, or?
I grew up, my father was a football coach, so I was always around sports. And for me, I used to really would go down to the Garden. My family were all big Syracuse fans. But for me, what got the hooks in me was I remember when Loyola Marymount, when I first saw what they were running, and they were putting up over 100 points a game. They were running this up-tempo style of basketball, and I was like, wow, I'd never seen anything like it. And from really that point on, and especially the Loyola Marymount run, the year Hank Gathers passed away, was it was so emotional for me that I watched every game of before that, I'd watched the tournament, everything like that. I'd watched a lot of finals, but that was when I realized I wanted to be, wanted to have something to do with the game. And so I coached high school basketball for 21 years. And, I was usually coaching 2-3 teams a year. I had about 200 career wins. We won 5 league titles. I had a lot of fun doing it. It was great. And so, it's been part of my life on some level. So when I got out of coaching, I wanted to have something to do that was related to basketball. So I've been doing some writing and research, and I enjoy that. I miss coaching a little bit though. So.
Don't sell yourself short. You were a fierce competitor as a player and a teammate.
Did you notice I skipped past my playing career?
Yeah, I'm sure you still play. You mentioned playing down in Atlanta. I know they call you the Magic City Menace.
Yeah, speaking of that.
So I'll bring it up just, tongue in cheek, but
unreal.
In telling the story of basketball, I wonder if because they didn't have the Magic City night in Atlanta, which still boggles my mind that they even considered it. But is that a story? Because you mentioned to me when we spoke offline about Jamie Gertz owning part of the team.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a story that the American Basketball Hall of Fame is willing to tell.
I gotta really run that by the board. I'm not sure we're really gonna do. So Magic City so the Atlanta Hawks on the 14th were gonna do this big event. You know, it was gonna be the Hawks, pay tribute to Magic City. Magic City, it has great chicken wings. It has it right by there's lots of good things about it. It's also a strip club. And, if you just backed up for a second, you're like, oh, wow, the Hawks are doing a night where they're paying tribute to the strip club that's across the street from the Greyhound station. And that was a little odd. And, imagine the conversation.
And they were playing the Orlando Magic. So,
well, yeah, exactly. Right.
If you didn't know, you thought they were honoring the team they were playing.
Well, you could see kids like, Mom, Dad, what's Magic City? And it's like, I told it to a friend of mine, and he was like, how far are we away from Magic City Elementary School? I was like,
it'll start as a daycare center, I'm sure. Like, an adult daycare center.
I still, that was one of the most, I took a train trip from Los Angeles back here, and I'm going to a Kennesaw game, and that came up on my phone, and I'm like, oh man, I'm really losing my mind. I've been on a train too long. This is saying that Magic City.
I think I sent that to you.
Yeah, I was like, and I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like, and anyway, the league stepped in and canceled it because I guess that was a step too far. I thought the NFL was.
I can't believe it got as far as it did.
Yeah, same. Jamie Gertz, who was like, she was a Brat Pack actress in the 80s, like basically like if you couldn't get Molly Ringwald, you get Jamie Gertz,
less than zero, right?
Yeah. She
well, her husband owns, her husband owns a hedge fund, a huge hedge fund.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, his partner, his partner owns the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yep.
And
so she's affiliated with that group, and they own the Hawks also. So she had done a documentary on Magic City that was on TV that was actually pretty popular, and she decided that this was a nice pivot point for the team to really bring the whole strip club ethic to the game. So it's a different thing. I passed no judgment. I thought it was a great idea.
It worked for the Lakers back in the day, right?
Absolutely. It's not that far away. But yeah, so what'd you call me? The Magic City Madman? I like that.
Magic City Menace.
Magic City Menace. I like it. Okay, I like that. Next time I go get wings. By the way, wings there are not as good as the Candlelight. Okay.
Thank you. Make sure to pass that along.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm old enough to remember the ABA, so I remember the influx of Streetball to the American Basketball Association or whatever they were, and how that was always a conflict between the NBA and the ABA. And but still, my favorite story is the guys that got bought out made more money than the guys that kept the teams.
The owner of the St. Louis Spirit, they were the only group that agreed to take they agreed to take some kind of percentage stake in the NBA. Everybody else just took a straight payout, and they ended up making billions off of it. That franchise actually was the franchise that Bob Costas started when he was like 21. He was doing play-by-play, and They had, oh God, the Spirit were the most fun team in the ABA. They had a guy by the name of Bobby Fly Williams, who was a streetball legend in New York and went on to play at Austin Peay. And he was famous because at Austin Peay, one side of the arena would yell, "The Fly is open," and the other side would yell, "Let's go Peay." So that was like the, Austin Peay. I'll be here all week. Try the veal. They got also the Marvin Bad News Barnes was on that team, and he has the Bob Costas tells the greatest Marvin Barnes story ever. Marvin Barnes is going to catch a flight, and they tell him, you're going out to the West Coast, so set your watch back because the time's gonna be different when you get out there. Marvin stops cold, 6'10" guy standing like ready to get into a plane, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm not getting into a time machine. That was the ABA. The ABA was just story after story, guy like that. But the Spirits were great, and those guys, the guys who took the equity stake, were brilliant. They saw a future in the NBA instead of just getting a quick payout. And
they finally bought them out. The time came, I don't know how many years ago, not that long ago.
Yeah.
They finally bought them out because they made so much money. Like, we're not going to continue doing this.
I'm impressed. That story. I have not talked to many people who know that one, and it
about
is
the ABA.
Yeah, what generally, like,
I
I don't
thought it
know.
was well known. I mean,
The
you
ABA is
talk
not.
about imagine you get paid more for not having a team, no expenses.
Isn't that
I
amazing?
mean, and back in the day, these guys who came over had to try to make a go of it
Sure.
because well, now you're in the NBA, you're all kinds of different stuff you have to do, you're part of, and it costs more, and the salaries are more, and everything's more. So these guys were struggling in the beginning, though they made money. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah.
But the ABA
Changed the
guys that got bought out or shut their teams sat back, did nothing, and would just get checks.
Yep, absolutely. It's funny, it was a fascinating league for any number of reasons, but most people, if you mention ABA, they just mention the basketballs. It's either Dr. J, maybe George the Iceman Gervin, and the basketballs, like the red, white, and blue basketballs. That was the thing. But it really was. It was a fantastic league. And the merger was a huge part of the NBA's development. I mean, you don't have the Nets, you don't have the Spurs without it, so I mean,
Who was the other Barry? Rick Barry?
Yeah, well, Rick Barry played. I don't know. Yeah, he was. So he was. I was gonna say, was he at Golden? Oh man, I'm slipping today. It's been a rough day. He was at Golden State, but I forget exactly if he was on a team pre-merger. I think he was. Barry was the guy who still teaches free throw shooting underhand.
Right.
Yeah, and he shot like 98% from the field one year shooting underhanded. So guys do it now.
I couldn't shoot when I was a kid, and I switched to doing it that way, and I was 100 times better.
I've had 2 shooters over the years that had trouble because there's so many moving parts when you're doing free throw, and I taught them to shoot underhand, and they were 2 of our best free throw shooters. There's less moving parts; it's easier to control. If you get a feel for that stroke, I think it's a great way to do it. But it looks a little funny. So
that's the problem as a kid.
Yeah, you do that.
You don't look funny.
Yeah.
He was over 800 for his career, I think, from the free throw line.
Really?
Yeah.
I was.
I'm looking at it now. He started actually with the NBA in San Francisco, but then he was with Oakland, Washington, and New York in the ABA.
Yeah. I knew he did the stint there. I'm just trying to remember exactly what. So thank you.
I told you I'm old.
Yeah. No. Being old is good. We like old. I wish I were older. I'd know more stories. So.
Yeah,
but
you wouldn't have as long to tell them.
That's a good point. A very good point. So maybe I'm at exactly the right point right now. Maybe just stay. How old are we, Justin? I'm like 27.
We're gonna be 51 this year.
We're not gonna be 51 to stop. You're messing with me. It's true. Oh God. All right. Well, no. The other day I counted the rings around my leg and it was only 27. So.
Dude, I have so many
together.
I have so many years on you wouldn't believe.
How are you doing anyway? You feeling better? Like Justin was
yesterday. Well, did you hear the story?
I did not hear the story.
So we're gonna cook for this fundraiser at the American Italian Club. Justin's standing 6 feet in front of me. So this guy Joe moves these. We have plastic all around the outside so that you put heaters on. It's warm inside in this area. So we're about to cook and all these things, and I'm sitting there. It's like 9:30 in the morning, and this guy moves these huge pieces of 3/4-inch plywood and lays them up against the wall because he can't even lift them. They're so heavy. The wind blows the plastic, acts like a sail, moves the wood. The wood slams down in my head, knocks me out.
Oh, man. Okay.
And Justin's like, "Are you all right?" And I think I said, "I don't think so."
No, he was in bad shape.
That's not good. So
I ended up going. Well, the ambulance corps is right next to the club, so the guy who put the wood there ran over there and got one of the girl, and the girl came back. She goes, "Well, I think you need to go to the hospital." I was like, your blood pressure is 195 over 100. I was like,
190 over.
Starting to sound like. So when I got to the hospital, it went down after sitting there a while, but it's just the original. It just had happened. So yeah, I have like some kind of weirdo. I have a neck sprain. I didn't. Maybe a concussion. Who knows? And I can't turn my head.
Yeah.
And
but that was his eyes on left turns today.
Yeah, I'm like, look to the right. So.
Yeah.
You know, way back from your house, I had to coming to Club Heatherdale, I had to go, just go.
Well, I was worried when I heard head injury because I was afraid at the end of the show you were going to be like, Justin, why'd we have twins on the show?
He took a shot.
I had no. They did a CAT scan of my head and my neck, and they just said, you had severe trauma to the neck, and it's going to take a while. You got to take it easy. So I worked 12 hours yesterday, and then I, ran around with him chasing antique phonographs all day. So
last time I got bonked in a basketball game, I went to the doctor. They did the CAT scan on me. They examined my head. They found nothing. Sorry, I just.
At least you're consistent.
Sorry. Yeah, I was going to say, and basketball, that's a fun game too, right?
Speaking of seeing twins, I guess that's a good transition. We could get into the Eastern bracket with Duke.
Wow, that was a pivot right there. This is Segway Cafe time, my man. Nice job.
So I guess we'll start there. Duke is the big bad wolf in this tournament. They're in the East. There's some formidable opponents in that bracket that they're going to have to get through. There's three Hall of Fame coaches in that bracket alone. Mm-hmm. I know they're down two starters. They're down a guard and a big, and they went from. But they went to a 7-man rotation for the ACC tournament, and they won the ACC tournament without both guys.
Yeah,
obviously this is a little deeper field. Does Duke have enough to win 6 games in this tournament without those two?
As you were saying, usually I look at the bracket and I'm like, man, they really want Duke to get to the Final Four. I looked at it this year. I was like, wow, they must be angry at him or something. You talked about the Hall of Fame coaches. There are 32 national championships combined among the teams that are in their bracket. I mean, this is like, it's like if they, the old Norris division, instead of the West and the South, they could just have the blue blood bracket. This is kind of what this bracket is. I think Duke has a really good chance. I would say, Boozer, the tall Boozer is an absolute, I mean, the guard is fantastic, but the big guy he moves really fluidly. He attacks the glass. He's unstoppable. He's just a physical presence. He's going to be very hard for a team to slow down. That being said, they're going to draw probably, if St. John's can get through, defensively, St. John's could give them a very good game. St. John's has one problem. Their best player is Zuby. And when, teams early in the season wanted to shut St. John's down, they deny Zuby the ball. And if he doesn't get the ball, they got to get production out of guys like Hopkins, who's been hit or miss. St. John's has won 19 of the last 20 games, though. And they beat UConn, who's a 2 seed, twice. I don't know why they're a 5 seed, but so Duke would have to get past them. And then if you're asking me who's going to be, who's going to be waiting for them, I think it's going to be the best Michigan State team I've seen in a while. Michigan State is, Tom Izzo, I would argue, is one of the greatest coaches of all time. I don't think I'm going to get much pushback there. This year, he's got a point guard who I think is the best point guard they've had there since Mateen Cleaves. A guy by the name of Jeremy Fears, averaging.
Last time the Big Ten won a national championship.
Yep. Yeah. And this Michigan State team is, they're always great defensively. They grind teams down. Duke is going to have trouble scoring against them. Everybody does. But the Fierce kid is a game changer. I mean, he really is. He is. He's kind of he's sort of a special player, and not just what he does as a scorer. He involves people so well. I mean, like I say, averaging close to 10 assists a game is hard to do. He's leading the country right now, and he's a lot of people talk about Braden Smith being the best point guard in the country. I would argue Fears is. So. So yeah, I mean, Duke can. I think Duke has a shot in all of those games. They're the most talented team in the bracket, but I got Michigan State coming out of that bracket.
That bracket is loaded. You got Ohio State, who is an 8 seed, but from the Big Ten, that could go either way. But you got St. John's with Coach Pitino. You got Kansas, Louisville, Michigan State, UCLA, and UConn. I mean, that's a gauntlet of teams. They're only going to have to play 3 to get there, but I mean, they might have to play 3 Hall of Fame resumes just to get to the Final Four.
Well, and even the mid-majors in that bracket, like the 12 seed in the bracket is Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa didn't win their regular season championship, but Northern Iowa is a tough team to play. I was talking to Justin about this. They're like getting ready to to use a football analogy, they're like getting ready to play an option football team. They're the slowest paced team in America. They grind possessions out. St. John's is going to struggle with them because they're going to want to keep the game in the 50s and 60s. They won a game scoring like 56 points earlier in the year. They have a kid named Leon Bond, who's a transfer from Virginia, who I think is one of the best mid-major players in the country. So, I mean, even the teams that you're thinking may get knocked off are still pretty good. So, again, Northern Iowa plays the slowest pace in the country. St. John's has to adapt to that and then move on. What you might see is some of those mid-majors might knock teams off, and Duke might end up with an easier road. But I think they're going to be playing some brutal teams in that bracket regardless.
Yeah. We're talking with Keith Spillett from the collegebasketballtimes.com. Make sure you click like and subscribe and tell all your friends. So I think, every year the bracket comes out, we look at the bracket, and it's hard not to chalk the bracket because it's just a numbers game, really. But
I don't. It's hard to believe that number ones win, right? I mean, some people look at I think it's Iowa State, and they're saying they have a good team, and in this short thing, I mean they could put a beating on people.
Judge, that's a team I'm very into. I think they're a Final Four team. A lot of people don't think so but I mean they got a kid Mamalosevic who I pronounce that wrong. I just call him Mama Luke all the time.
Mama Luke.
He's a 50% 3-point shooter.
My dad just said to my mom, "What are you wearing? You look like a Mama Luke. Go get changed."
We should really do this show next time on like milk crates out in front of Richie Bell's store.
Next time.
That would be the best, man.
Next time I have the technology. Don't worry, we can go mobile anywhere.
I'm in. I'll come up for it.
We can make that happen for sure.
Yeah, no, I like that Iowa State team, Judge. I mean, but you're right. There's a lot of teams lurking in the weeds. Iowa State's one of the best defensive teams in the country. They're also one of the best offensive teams in the country. When you have a team that can do both things well, and is pretty good in transition, got a guy who can hit threes.
Nebraska, Illinois. I mean, there are teams out there that I think people forget about. They want to say Michigan State, and I love Michigan State, by the way. I would probably pick them. And and Michigan, I mean, those are easy things to pick, right? Because they're on television all the time, and you can watch them, but you don't see as much the Iowa States and those things. Sometimes they fall through the cracks when you're picking your bracket.
Well, for me, I have the opposite problem. I end up this year, like my coverage that I was a beat reporter for 3 different schools. So I did Creighton, which is, in the Big East, but then I did Kennesaw State, which is in the Conference USA, and they're in, we can talk about them in a bit. And I also did UNC Greensboro, who's in the SoCon. So I watch mostly mid-major games. I mean, I'll watch all the big teams a bunch of times, but I end up picking the bracket, and it always looks like, it's like, wow, we got an 8 against an 11 here. And, it just doesn't, it usually I almost get the opposite. But some years, like I got Loyola of Chicago getting to the Final Four the year they did. But generally I end up overvaluing the mid-majors a little bit, which is a mistake. So somewhere between chalk and upset palooza there's a right way to do it. I've only got 3 teams right like twice. I've never gotten all 4 teams. So, I guess
you were always pretty good at it when we were kids. I remember that.
Yeah, I think I did 1 year because I would pick Syracuse and they would get there and then they break my heart. But no, there have been years I've been close, but I've never really. I always do better on the early season tournaments than I do on the tournament because for me the mid majors are really where the action's at. That's my thing. I mean, like the Miami of Ohio story is like the most exciting thing to me in the world. So yeah.
So tell me about St. John's.
I mean, they're really good. You watched them. If you caught them early in the year, they had games like against Kentucky where they went out early and got a pretty sizable lead. And, Kentucky just had so many scorers and they were able to slow them down on offense and just chip away. Alabama played them early in the season, put up over 100 points at Madison Square Garden. They hadn't lost to Madison Square Garden all year last year. So defense wasn't early in the season what we were used to. But from about the halfway point in the year, Pitino's just flipped him into gear. I mean, Zuby is one of the 5 best players in the country. He's absolutely fantastic. They have a bunch of guys who can come in and hit shots. They play defense like like their hair's on fire. They're a lot of fun. I think they're going to be a little miffed getting a 5 seed, to be honest, because they blew UConn out in the Big East Finals, and they lost them once. I mean, UConn held them to like 40 points. It wasn't a good game for them, but they beat UConn 2 out of 3 times. UConn's looking at a 2 seed, and they're a 5 seed, and it's like, huh.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit weird.
And you say to yourself, it looks like St. John's has been peaking, right? They've gotten to that. He's kept them. Listen, he's a great coach.
Yes.
He's kept them. He's made them better and better and better, and they're coming to the pinnacle right now, where they're going into the final, into the bracket here. But it's funny, UConn. It's funny you brought that up. I was going to ask you about that. Is I don't see them as a 2 seed. I think. I just don't see him, and I think you're putting a team in there to get whacked early,
Yeah.
and everybody to figure it out, and then we got to watch him lose his temper and screaming at the refs and all that crap. And you know what? I'm fed up with that. I don't want to see that anymore.
I am too. I don't mean to be on a soapbox with the judge, but it's like, really, like, all year it's been coaches. More and more you see coaches just acting ridiculous. Mick Cronin looks like he's auditioning for a reboot of Dirty Harry. Like, I don't know if you saw the clip where, like, the UCLA coach, the reporter said something, and he's like, "Did you raise your voice at me?" Like, he's like trying to, get him into a fight or something like that. It was bizarre. So yeah, and Hurley is just like he's a great coach. I mean, really, he's a Hall of Fame caliber coach.
He's a legend already.
Yeah, exactly. He's won 2 championships, but he's got this wrestling heel persona that is not, to me, very interesting. And what's most interesting about him, back when he was at Rhode Island, I mean, he did a great job coaching his teams up. He never was like this. This is sort of like, this is a new thing. His father obviously was one of the greatest high school coaches of all time. This is a guy who really knows what he's doing, comes from a family of it, was really born to do it. And I think he undercuts his, I don't know, his sort of moral authority by just acting foolishly. So I'm with you. It bothers me.
You wonder if it's just that mentality of everything going your way your whole life kind of thing. You played at the best place, you got the best education, your father's world renowned, and you want everything should go your way. And it's just not life. Even when you're right, you could be wrong.
Oh, sure. Although with Danny, it's interesting, right? Because that profile is kind of Bobby Hurley, right? And Bobby Hurley had a good start at Buffalo, went to Arizona State, just got blown out of there. Lost by 50. Iowa State in his last game, and everything went right for Bobby Hurley. Danny Hurley played at Seton Hall, was kind of a marginal player, worked his way up through the mid-major. He really worked for it, which is what makes his current demeanor so puzzling to me. Like, why is he acting like he is when he knows how to coach, he knows what to do, he knows how to handle the situation? And for him, he definitely was in a better situation coming from the, a family that he's coming from, but also he was always Bobby Hurley's brother. So, I always,
Bobby was the better player.
Yeah, absolutely. He was. And I think Danny would say that.
On the better team.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, but Danny's really, this UConn routine he's doing, I'm not a fan. I mean, and there's a lot of coaches who do this now, so I don't know. It's not my thing. So
we've gone through some big names, some big college program names, big coaching names, but we're kind of past the era of the Bobby Knights. And I'm not disparaging Calipari and Pitino and all those big names. We've already seen Jay Wright come and go, and he won 3 national championships, right? At Villanova,
yeah.
And we're in an entirely different era now. Even though those dinosaurs, and I don't mean that disparagingly, they're old names that are still good. And I think you look at the tournament, you look at the bracket, you see that name, and you know who the coach is, and you kind of have a hard time picking against them. But there's probably 4 or 5 coaches in this bracket or in this tournament. You've got, Todd Golden at Florida won a national championship last year. They brought back 4 players from that team, and seemingly no one's even talking about them because you got Houston in that bracket, who everybody's expecting big things from. You got Jay Lucas at Miami, even though he's a first-year head coach. You got Brian Hodgson from South Florida, who's got a tremendous team.
Yep.
They're very good. There's McNamara, who's coaching Siena. He's the 16 team, but that's, son of Boeheim, basically, right?
Yeah, you gotta, and they're playing Duke out of the gate,
Right,
right?
right out of the gate. And then you
Duke's
got Ryan
and
Odom in Virginia, another first-year head coach, but he's the son of Dave Odom. All good young coaches in their own right. They didn't get these jobs by mistake. They earned their way
right.
there.
Yeah.
So, have we entered a new era of college basketball with not just the coaching, but also the NIL and how things have progressed from where they came 30 years ago?
I mean, I think you saw a lot of coaches walk away because they didn't really like how the portal was working out and what it was doing to the game. I think
Yeah.
great coaches adjust, though.
Yeah.
But what the Jay Wright surprised me. What really surprised me was Tony Bennett retiring. Like Tony Bennett at Virginia. I mean, I watched Dick Bennett when he was at Wisconsin, and Tony came up and was great at Washington State, won a national championship at Virginia. But he's a young guy, But these guys are getting out of it. The coaches that I most appreciate, Justin, are like the old school storyteller coaches, like the Al McGuires, the guys who they got a story about everything. They study the history of the game. We have a few, I mean, there's guys like Izzo in the tournament, Patino, that really have that, the feeling of an old time coach. But you got a lot of people who are kind of, a lot of people kind of chasing jobs, looking for the next thing, trying to get somewhere else. And so it's a different type of person who's coaching now. So I don't think you see the same type of really charismatic, fun, interesting coach. Not that McGuire was perfect, but McGuire telling the story, you could sit there for a half an hour and listen to him on TV, and he was magnificent.
Right.
You don't have as many as many coaches like that. Like Todd Golden is a fantastic coach, but when you listen to him interviewed, he isn't exactly the most interesting person. He's just brilliant. He's a fantastic coach. There's a lot of
Right.
guys like that. The guy who they were going to see in the second round, Ben McCollum, I think is one of the great young coaches in college basketball. Already won 4 Division II college basketball titles. Went to Drake last year, rebuilt them in a year, and now he's at Iowa. But he's a young guy. He's in his early 40s, and he's not exactly a big personality. He's very focused on coaching, very solid in what he does. His players love him. I mean, he's taking all these D2 kids with him to each school that he goes. But you don't have that same charismatic type of coach that you used to have, who you could just sit down and listen. They tell you a story about playing North Carolina back in the day or something like that. And I do miss that aspect of the game, because those guys are kind of dinosaurs at this point.
Well, it's funny because that certainly hasn't gone on to the NBA. It doesn't have these guys that were great coaches, the young guys that are good coaches that go into the NBA. It doesn't seem, for some reason, coaches don't seem to make the transition from college to the NBA like they do in other sports, like they do in well, not necessarily baseball, because baseball's set up differently, but certainly you see it more in football than you do in than you will in the NBA.
Yeah. It's a different game. I mean, it really is. It's I mean,
It's a different world.
yeah,
It's
it
a
really
different
is.
world.
And
And these coaches are making a heck of a lot of money coaching basketball, because basketball is a moneymaker, right?
Absolutely.
So these coaches, you look at the numbers they get, and why should I go to the NFL? When I get a house, I get the living room I want, everybody knows who I am, and everybody does what I say.
Yeah. No, it's true. I think in the NBA, the really great coaches over the years have more been people who understood how to manage talent. Judge just
Did
went
we
dark.
lose the judge?
Your Excellence, where are you?
I know.
Where'd you go? Your Eminence.
I think I hit the plug.
Oh man,
We can hear you.
are we still on? the air? Hello, is this thing
We're
on?
still good.
Hello. Oh,
All right. Well, he's trying to figure that out.
Hold on.
Okay.
I was going to say, but yeah, like the coaching in the NBA is much more about managing personalities. You don't see a lot of teams in the NBA running unique sets or anything like that. Everybody's kind of got what they do. Occasionally you see a coach, different thing, but with the NBA, it's more about the personality of the players and more about managing those personalities, which is not, to me, as interesting as college basketball, where they miss a lot more, but it's about each team has its own system, its own ideology. That's fascinating to me. So
It seems that the personalities of the coaches have diminished, that they're not as flamboyant as they used to be. And the storytelling comes from their experiences, or just came from a different era of basketball and sports altogether.
Yeah.
Where now, not only do you have NIL, plus the portal to deal with. You've got an era like we talked about before, 24-hour news cycle. Cameras are always on you. You don't know whose cell phone camera is looking at you wherever you are. We've seen it in college football a little more so than I think we have in basketball, although there are some stories. Those
Oh,
those
hey, over there.
that's all right. Those that was my
bird.
Hutch. It's my Hutch basketball
Oh my God! Wow!
plaque.
Look
For
at that!
my
Wow!
undefeated season.
Wow! You beat us that year twice.
They
By the way,
jumped off the wall just to get a plug.
none of us we couldn't guard Jimmy Long. We struggled. You know. Yeah, you guys killed us. Actually, I think we beat. I don't know why I remember this stuff. I think we beat Colonial once. I think that was it. You know, wasn't a good year for the.
I'm sure I'll be reminded of it this weekend. We're going up to Nitton's house. A whole bunch of guys this weekend.
Wow.
We'll watch this in rewind over the weekend. But getting back anyway, how much do you think that the 24-hour news cycle plays a part in the diminishing of the personalities of these coaches?
I think people are, I think there's a script now and you're supposed to follow the script. And if you don't follow the script, sometimes that's, sometimes you can be edgy, right? Like you can do the Dave Hurley thing, but like there isn't a lot of room for being interesting. The guy who's the general manager of, you see occasionally guys, name is slipping my mind right now, but, one of the basketball general manager who built the Oklahoma City Thunder, like I saw a press conference with him and he talked for an hour about like writers like Robert Caro and like all these, how he was reading Susan Sontag and it was affecting his, like really interesting stuff. Right.
Right.
But most people don't go off script like that because
there he is.
There he is. I had to leave and come back in. It wouldn't let me back in, but you guys were still recording, so
good.
That's good.
Well, and it, I just think that if you go off script, you risk saying something that's problematic. And some folks really aren't that good going off script. So it's, it's one of those things. It's not an easy thing, I think, to manage these days, but it's again, it's better. Yeah. I think the college coaches back in the day were always my favorite. You remember John Van Bargen used to tell stories about
JV.
Yeah. And he played at Belmont Abbey when Al McGuire was there. So he used to tell all sorts of stories from that.
Oh, man.
Justin and I grew up hearing all these stories and they were just incredible. So
we're back. The judge is back. We're talking with Keith Spillett, collegebasketballtimes.com. Please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Judge, we'll catch up. We just were mentioning how
I heard it. I heard everything.
You heard it all? Okay.
Yeah. So can I ask a question?
Sure.
So what do you think about, we said about Illinois, we talked a little bit about Houston. What was the team I was going to ask you about? What do you think of Purdue?
I think Matt Painter is one of the most innovative coaches in college basketball offensively. Every year I watch them and every year I learn things about offense that I didn't think were possible. He has a very good team. There's something weird about this team though. The last month or two, they ended up winning the Big East, the Big Ten tournament, but that was huge. But they haven't really looked great down the stretch. They have a lot of great parts. They have Oscar Clough, who was a transfer in from not San Diego State, South Dakota State, who's a big man who's been fantastic. Trey Kaufman-Renn, who was a 20-point-a-game player, he's averaging about 12 or 13 a game. He hasn't had a great year yet. Braden Smith is a great point guard. They got Fletcher Lawyer, who's close to 50% from 3-point, or was close to 50% from 3-point range until they went through the bad stretch recently.
Right.
And he has like 7'4" guy he brings off the bench for like 10 minutes, Jacobson, who just kind of like stands there like a tree. But like he's got a lot of everything on that team. It wouldn't stun me if they made a run, but also Purdue's postseason history has not been exactly awesome. One year he's going to get one though.
Right.
Yeah, I thought their win against Michigan was pretty good for them. I was knocking them off the block. Michigan coming in had already lost to Wisconsin. I know they lost to Duke, but Purdue's been a pretty formidable team in the Big Ten for a long time. It seems though sometimes, like you said, the weird thing about them, it's almost like there's a little bit of exhaustion there.
Sure.
They've had some really talented teams and some good big players, strong players, and they end up losing in the tournament to teams that you would think that they would have walked right through.
it's crazy if you go back to either the St. Peter's game or the Fairleigh Dickinson game. They didn't play particularly badly in either game, which is the really weird part of those upsets, right? Like they didn't.
The other team just played their best game.
And they didn't defend well, and the games were both close late, and the teams kind of both fell apart late. So, for Purdue, I think Painter's a great coach, and I think he'll get it at some point. He'll get him there, but there's something about that team that is very strange in March. And I don't know what it is. I mean, they were able to get to the finals against UConn. They don't have a player of Edie's caliber this year, I don't think, though. So, it's hard to say. I mean, but any year, any of the one or two seeds could make a run. I mean, occasionally you'll get somebody like an 11 seed we've had 2 11 seeds who got to the came out of that play-in game in Dayton and have gotten to the Final Four. So you see runs like that. But
it's funny you say that. I was thinking that the one team in that play-in for that Michigan bracket that worries me is Texas.
Okay, I was going to say
NC State, and I think everybody's overlooking Texas.
I am. That's going to be, by the way, I think the first game in the history of the tournament where both coaches were caught on an FBI wiretap at a separate time committing I think was a felony. I'm not sure, Judge. I think they knocked it down to a misdemeanor or something.
I don't know what it was.
Yeah, Sean Miller at Texas has been great. I actually really like Will Wade's team at NC State. I had them preseason as a Final Four team. They've been awful down the stretch, but they got Darian Williams, who looks like he's like a football tight end, but he's a great free throw shooter. He's a great 3-point shooter. I would make almost the exact same argument for NC State there, where I think the team that gets out of that Texas NC State game is, they could be a problem for some teams.
Yeah, I mean, you look at these. I mean, certainly in the East, if I had to pick 8 teams, I would pick. You have to go with Duke just because of history. St. John's. Whether is you pick St. John's or Kansas, I think I would go with St. John's just because I think they've been on more of a roll, and then Michigan State and UConn.
Yeah,
I mean that sounds like the East to me. And there are other. Listen, could somebody get bumped off? Yeah. I mean,
well, and Kansas is always they're always fun to pick against in the tournament because they're sort of Kansas and Arizona are always the teams that are like, like you pick them and they're out in 20 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately they draw. Kansas is Darren Peterson might be the best player in college basketball right now when he plays, which has about been, half the season. And he's a guy who's kind of trying to keep himself healthy for the draft lottery. And then meanwhile, they're playing a Cal Baptist team that has this kid Daniels, who's an absolute monster of a player. Cal Baptist could knock them off. They're very good. So, it's one of the things that makes it great is like, one year I picked Wake Forest to win the national championship, and they played the 12 o'clock game on Thursday. And my bracket was done by about 12:30 on Thursday. And I'm like,
we've all had that time. Then in the South,
bracket busted.
Then in the South, you see Florida. I don't know. Something tells me Nebraska.
I'd love that.
Florida, Nebraska, and then Illinois. And I guess you have to say Houston.
Yeah, I mean, Houston's my pick to win the tournament this year. I mean, I've heard different things from different people. They're the best. They've been consistently right around it every year, getting to the Final Four, getting to the final game. This year, they have probably the best player Kelvin Sampson has ever had in Kingston Flemings, who's a freshman who's going to be probably a top 5 pick. Houston's very good. Florida is outstanding. What's interesting is they may end up seeing Vanderbilt in the Sweet 16. Vanderbilt caught them in their conference tournament. Vanderbilt beat them by like 20 points.
Vanderbilt was one of the things I think they're always a sleeper, and I think they're a sleeper now. Vanderbilt's a possibility to throw that off, but I think Nebraska is a better team. But
Vanderbilt's in that 5-12 upset seed.
Yeah, and then the West, I would say Arizona. I hate to not pick Villanova, but Arizona. And Arkansas, but I don't think they get past Arizona, Arkansas.
I don't either. I mean, Acuff's a great player. He's a freshman, though. And, I mean, Arizona's been fantastic all year. But Arizona's got the, like, Al Pacino and the Godfather 3. every time they pull every time I'm out, they pull me back in. You know, Arizona, every year I look at them and I'm thinking to myself, they're gonna who in the bracket's gonna beat them? Last time I thought that Princeton beat them. And since Tommy Lloyd's been there, they've been great in the regular season. They have not been great in the postseason. So I don't know why I have Arizona going to the final game, but for some reason that doesn't usually work out for me.
So yeah, and in the other side of the West, I think you gotta say Purdue, and I hate to say Gonzaga.
They're going out in the first round.
Well, let me give you my like
Arkansas State
time pick. Okay. The team that has faced the most adversity this season, if I had to pick one, would be Kennesaw State, which is a team I've covered throughout the whole year. Kennesaw State is playing Gonzaga in the first round. Gonzaga's got a few guys dinged up, right? They're still really good. Kennesaw State had the conference preseason player of the year in Simeon Cottle. Remember that little point shaving scandal that happened this year? Yeah, Simeon Cottle was one of the guys under FBI indictment. So Kennesaw State lost their best player, maybe the best player in the history of the franchise, in the history of the program. They lost Adrian Woolley coming into the season, who was who ended up going to Louisville, was a fantastic player. And Antoine Petway has had to rebuild this team with freshmen and just a bunch of interesting pieces. And they were the 6th seed in the Conference USA tournament. They ran through the Conference USA tournament. They beat Liberty in the regular season, who was the best team in the conference. They went through, they were down a bunch at the half. I think they were down 11 at the half to Sam Houston State, came back and won, beat Louisiana Tech in the finals. And the thing with Kennesaw State is they're not your typical mid-major where they're real small. They look like a football team. They got a 6'4" guard who looks like a cross between Brian Urlacher and Mark Jackson, right? He's huge. Great shooter, RJ Johnson. They got a bunch of 6'5" guards who can rebound. Do you
think they beat Gonzaga and BYU?
I got them beating Gonzaga. I actually got NC State upsetting by BYU, which if I pick something, just pick the other direction because it's usually wrong. But I think NC State's going to be the team that's running that bracket.
Maybe.
BYU's very good. DeBance is a great player, but losing Richie Saunders really hurts them because I think they're easier to guard at this point. But I mean, they got the next Kevin Durant.
And then in the Midwest, you got to say Michigan.
I know
Michigan's going to the final. The final's on my birthday, so they better be there.
Oh wow!
And
I hate to ruin you 51st for you, but I think
I don't know. Do they get past Alabama? I don't think so. But
Alabama's cooked. Their starting point guard got arrested.
I know. Yeah,
I don't think without him, maybe Hofstra has a chance.
Here's the thing, that Alabama Hofstra, whoever wins, it's going to be a great game to watch because neither team play any defense. So It's going to be like 125 to 122. They just run back and forth. Hofstra always can score. They're fun.
You never know.
Yeah, and Alabama.
I mean, that's
and then you say Iowa State. I believe in Iowa State, and
you didn't talk about Akron.
I don't know that much about Virginia.
Virginia's they're good. I mean, they were 2 points off winning the ACC tournament. They've they kind of been a team they've been on all year, but they've been very good in a good ACC. So I mean, it's possible. My team out of that region is going to be Iowa State, though. I saw Iowa State early in the year against Creighton.
I agree.
They couldn't get the ball. Creighton couldn't get the ball within 40 feet of the basket on a lot of possessions. They have these possessions where they get the ball, pass it back and forth, and finally, like you'd see the shot clock run out, they just chuck it at the basket, hoping it went down. Iowa State does that to teams, and they got 3-4 guys who can score. Joshua Jefferson is a great player.
Right.
Yeah, Michigan is probably more talented. The injury to Kaysen is a big deal, but I think they're deep enough where they can withstand that. But I think Iowa State actually is going to come out of that bracket.
I agree with you.
Yeah. I'm glad somebody does, because I say Iowa State, people look at me like.
I think Iowa State is a force.
Yeah, I agree. TJ Oberholzer is their coach. He's another one who goes back to South Dakota State, has been just, since he's gotten at Iowa State, they've overperformed. And this is the first year, I think he's a phenomenal coach. And this is the first year he's really had exceptional talent. And I think they're a little bit underrated, because Iowa State usually doesn't do much in the tournament. But this year, I think is going to be a year they do get to the Final Four.
All right. I think we went through it pretty well.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Well, what'd you say, Judge?
Anything else you guys want to talk about?
I'm pretty good. How you doing, Jay? You all right? We can talk more about.
I'm holding out, not giving you my Final Four yet because
Yeah,
I'm still up in the air about that. I need to see who wins that Texas NC State game first. But right now I have Michigan, Florida, Michigan State, and Arizona.
Way to
So you
pick
got Michigan.
Way to pick the front runners, dude.
Well, Florida's defending national champs. Nobody's talking about them. They're getting disrespected all over the place. I don't think Vanderbilt, as good as they are, is going to beat them.
They're number
Illinois,
one seed.
Illinois
How
is not.
disrespected do you want them to be?
I'm just saying, Houston's good, but I think Florida's going to beat them. They've got 4 huge players returning. They got a good coach. They're battle tested. They know how to win in this tournament. Duke's got 2 players out, so I think that 7-man rotation is going to come up short. I don't think St. John's is as good as everybody thinks they are. And it's one of those, like we said before, about the coaches in this tournament being dinosaurs. And I'm not knocking, Rick Pitino. He's the greatest. I just think that Duke's going to overmatch them with those players they have on the floor in that rotation. And both Cameron, Boozer and Caden Boozer are playing pretty incredible basketball right now. Cameron Boozer today was named first team All-American, best player in the country. So I can't see them not, advancing, but I think Michigan State can beat them just because of Izzo. And I know I kind of contradict myself there with the big names, but who's coming out? Who else is coming out of that 6 through 11 teams in that bracket? I don't think it's Louisville. I don't think it's South Florida, although, they have a good team. Central Florida is a team to keep an eye on, 10 seed, but they're playing UCLA in the first round. I just think those 2, perennial Final Four teams, Duke, Michigan State, is going to battle it out. And then on the other side, I'm biased. I'm picking Michigan. I'm not picking against them. I never pick against them. I always put them in the Final Four. The one time I didn't, they made it to the national championship game. So I'm never picking against them. Plus, it's on my birthday. And then in the West, the Texas NC State game, I like Texas. I could see Texas or NC State getting deep in this tournament.
So wait a
Could they
minute.
beat Arizona? I don't know. Will Purdue have a letdown against one of those 2 teams? Very possible.
So wait a minute. You don't think anything about Iowa State, and you're picking,
Iowa State is in the upset seed, so I'm not. And they have to get Kentucky, and I love Kentucky no matter where they are in the bracket. So, and I know they're playing. They're 7-10
Right.
playing Santa Clara. That's another team that can win an early round game and bust your bracket. But anybody who's a Yankee fan knows Kentucky wins the national championship. The Yankees win the World Series. So
I was wondering, is that still true? Like, is that
pretty much?
Okay.
So I want to see. I want to see Kentucky, Michigan.
Are you
selfish.
a Kennesaw guy? I mean, is that like an area of the world?
I live Kennesaw State is about 45 minutes to an hour. My son is a freshman there, so I go up when I do games. Oh yeah, I go up. So I do the media stuff at the games, and he's like sort of my assistant reporter, and we walk around and
so
players.
Kennesaw Mountain Landis. He was the saver of Major League Baseball, right? That's why they put him in.
Favorite commissioner.
Favorite commissioners. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I mean, Kennesaw, like I say, they're a fun program. I'm kind of having fun picking them because I've watched them the whole season, and I just, Antoine Petway. I don't know if you guys seen that Ted Lasso show, but he's like the basketball version of Ted Lasso, where he's just infectiously positive and just really just got a great spirit about him. He's an old Alabama point guard, and I don't know. He's got something to him that is definitely special in coaching. So, he turned a team around that shouldn't have turned around. So, yeah, Kennesaw has been my team basically since my son went there.
Makes sense.
Yeah, you got to kind of. I mean, SUNY New Paltz is not making a run in the tournament anytime soon. They're not even Division I. That's my school. So,
Yeah.
Took some classes at Georgia State. They're not very good this year. So, what do I do?
Well, I think we can leave it there. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I thought maybe we'd talk about the All-Americans, but I'm fine. I'm good.
All right.
I could go on for another half hour easy, but
the quote great Daryl Dawkins, when it's all been said and done, there's nothing else to say or do.
Well, Keith, we really appreciate you coming on. We look forward to having you again.
Yeah.
Anytime you want. We're here.
You guys are a blast. I'd come anytime. Like I say, we go in front of Richie Bell's. We'll get Yoo-Hoos, and we'll sit out there on milk crates. It'll be a great time. Put a pill and pizza, get some lasagna pie. It'd be wonderful.
That sounds good to me.
It's funny. There used to be, when I was a kid, we only had one car we used to drive. So I lived in northern Jersey, and my father worked on the road that kind of went to the Catskills. So when you lived in the city and you were going to the Catskills for the weekend or whatever for the summer, you drove along this road, and there was a John Dobersh's Twin Bars. It was right not far from the Apple Rest or any of those other weirdo places that were up that way. And it had a bar outside, and you pulled up in your car and you went up to the bar and you ordered a beer or whatever you want. You could sit in your car and drink a beer and whatever. So my dad used to get us Yoo-Hoos in tall bottles with long straws, and we would sit and drink Yoo-Hoos Wednesdays in the summer. So it's I have a long, that old because we drove through it today with Dustin. I almost said with Justin, and it was funny because you really think about those days, because that road used to be the way that everyone went from the city to go stay in the Catskills.
And another, besides being into basketball, Borscht Belt comedians are kind of my thing. So like Henny Youngman, Shecky Green, like guys like that were just incredible. So it's sort of, I grew up with the mythology of that area being very interesting to me as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, my favorite, if you brought up one show, I'll bring up the other. If you ever watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and the whole time that they're in the Catskills, I mean, you just a flashback. So there you go.
Yeah.
But I'm old.
Yeah, no, it's cool though. I wish I were around by the time, I remember I had a job where I was working near Sullivan County, and by the time I was going up there, it was,
already done.
Yeah. But, I read books and just heard stories, and it's, it was a really amazing time.
It was a different kind.
Yeah. I mean,
guys would come on Johnny Carson comedians and they said, oh, I'm going to be at the Concord, then I'm going to be at they would play, big time people would play all those places.
Absolutely.
And you know what they say, because that's where the money was.
Yeah. That's
so
true.
Having said that, thank you, everybody. We appreciate it, Keith. Justin, always a pleasure. Bald
Thank
Guys
you again
Unite.
for having me.
Thank you.
Keith, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Have a good.
Yeah, enjoy the tournament.
Thanks. Oh, you too.
Wow.